Hi everyone, it's Meg Sharp from the Cambridge Group of Clubs, and I love all the research out there on how exercise impacts your spirit and your mind, mental resilience, memory, focus, concentration, self-confidence. All that stuff is just amazing to me. It's a huge motivator for me and why I exercise. You know, and scientists are still looking at trying to figure out exactly what the mechanisms are. There's certainly lots of evidence to show that especially high intensity exercise creates neuroplasticity, it creates growth in the brain cells, improves neuromuscular connections. But there's still, some question marks over what is it about exercise that really improves cognition. And a question mark as in exactly what is it about high intensity exercise that seems to elicit the biggest changes. And I love high intensity exercise. It's great. I love the discomfort about it. No question, it makes you physically, physiologically, emotionally, spiritually resilient having to push that hard. But not everyone enjoys pushing to the point where they feel like they're going to throw up or die. And what's interesting to me is the word intense. Now, exercise can be intense in that you're working incredibly hard. But what about intensity in terms of your mental focus? The amount of energy that your brain is applying to your body to ensure the movement is done with integrity. The movement is done with adequate force. The move is done with extra force in all the right places, that your mechanics are right. What about all that intensity? That being mindful, excruciatingly present when you're doing the movement. It's not to say you always need to be that way, but there is such a great mechanical benefit to being present and ensuring that you're thinking about a movement properly and that you're making your muscles fire in the right patterns, but also fire harder, better, with more intensity, using your brain to make that. What about that? So I'm going to take you through a series of exercises where we're going to work on trying to make the execution of the exercise, of the repetition of the entire set as intense, mentally intense, as focused as possible. So I'm going to start with a squat. All right, I'm going to start with a squat. I'm going to take my TheraBand. I'm not even going to use heavy weights to make that intense. I'm going to use my brain to make these intense. I do like to have a little bit of some resistance toys. So when I go into my squat, I start fully centered. I flex through my glutes, through my quads. I'm spreading my toes into the ground so there's an intensity and force driving my feet down. A little bit of external rotation through the thighs. Drop my shoulders down and back. Nice, tall and long, and really tight through the abs. As I come down into that squat, I'm going to spiral my legs into the ground, push my hips back, gentle tension, just enough tension to make those shoulders flare and the collarbone nice and wide. Going to come down, pull, and come all the way back up. There's one. Deep breath in. Push the floor away from you. Pull as if you've got a massive iron bar in your hand and you're extending it up over your head. And then pull that bar right down to your lap, flexing through the triceps, through the shoulders, pushing the feet into the ground, pushing the knees out, and then a little more pace. Here we go. Warmed up the movement. I've got loads of tension firing everywhere. And again, deep breath in, push the floor away from you, up and down. Again, draw those shoulders down and back. Flex into the abs and the glutes as you come up. All right, and we're going to keep moving. We're going to go right down into a Renegade Row. So I'm going to place the weights right under my shoulders. I'm going to start this one from a kneeling position. Bring your knees back. Drive your knees into your mat. Flex your bum. And see how I'm in a semi-plank position here? I'm not sitting back. So I've got loads of energy into my abs. I start the movement, shoulders down and back, pull, squeeze really hard. Other side, pull, squeeze. This is a 12-pound weight. I'm probably in theory strong enough to do it with something else, something heavier, but I'm using the muscles through my shoulders. I'm flexing everything, my thighs, my abs, my neck is nice and long. And for those of you that are super strong, right up on the toes, pull, driving this hand into my toes to flex that abdominal as I row here. Drive this hand down towards my toes as I row here. So loads of energy in through the abdominal. Drop the hips, pull. Nice and strong. Pause, pull. And again, pause, pull. Awesome. Beautiful. And then flip right over on your back. Let's take these weights, put them right on top of my hips. Draw the shoulders down and back and push right up into a hip bridge. Hold right here. Tummy nice and tight. Draw the hips down and up. Hold. Shoulders down. Throat is open. Push the back of the shoulders into the mat and push the heels into the mat. I'm thinking about driving the knees out, which makes me flex my bum a little bit more. My knees aren't moving, but I'm creating some external rotation through the thighs. Open up the toes, press the whole foot down into the floor. Strong isometric connection at the top. Lots of energy through the abs, the glutes, pushing the back of the head into the mat, back of the shoulders into the mat, and up. Let's go 2 more, and then we're going to get back up on our feet. I'm going to try and change positions a little bit so that I continue to keep that heart rate relatively high. Do you want to try and drive some physiological intensity as well as that mental intensity? Okay, let's grab this band again, just to add a little more upper body tension. So I'm drawing those shoulders down and back, and I'm going to go back into a reverse lunge. So work on that isometric control, the eccentric control as you drop the knee down. So I'm bringing that knee all the way down to the ground, touch, but I'm using tons of control through my hips, through my abs, shoulders down and back, so my whole torso is filled through, full of wonderful energy and tension, and I'm controlling as I drop that knee down and back. I'm enjoying feeling that stretch through the quad, eccentrically loading, touching down, but I'm not just whamming it down, right? Control on the way down. Shoulders stay down and back. So I've got a little bit of tension through the rhomboids, through the rotator cuff, a little bit through the lats. Nice and long. Awesome. Bring it back down onto your knees. So your push-up, again, we're going to work our push-up as if it's a plank. So either off of the toes, where you're driving the toes into the floor and up towards the shoulders, driving the hands into the carpet or into the mat, external rotation. So you've got loads of energy through the serratus, all through the ribs, through the abdominals and back of the shoulder for your push-up. If I do it off of my knees, again, I'm going to drive my knees into the mat, flex through the quads, flex through the glutes, spiral those hands out. Nice deep breath in, and push the floor away from you. Spiral the hands out, flex the bum, flex the quads. Tons of energy through those abs. Again, spiral the hands, right? Flex through the bum, come down, and push away. Deep breath in, right? You can't actually move the hands, but you're creating that circle right there, and push. Good. Yeah, exactly. Tough to talk and do that at the same time, but hopefully you got that idea. Take your head, take your mind, be present as you do the movement. Try and think about what you can do to make the movement activate the muscles that you want it to activate, but also just get that entire body involved. Not every time, but periodically. First of all, of course, it's going to create different pathways, different neuromuscular pathways that are maybe better, safer, more effective for you. If you're weak and tight, weak through the shoulders, back of the shoulders, tight through the chest, why wouldn't you want to try and open that up for a lot of the exercises that you're doing? If you're weak through the glutes, Why wouldn't you try and get them to fire when you're doing your squats or your lunges or your hip bridges? So we can change the way that the patterning that we have, but then we can also involve the entire body so that any lifting that we're doing, whether it's a bicep curl or a plank or a calf drive, we can get the entire body working, which brings the mental engagement up, brings the intensity up. And certainly that's going to have some metabolic benefits, but also it's quite possible that that is one of the things that creates that better growth environment for the brain to keep it vital, to keep it young, to keep it building and strong. Thanks so much for joining from my home to yours.